what is workflow and everything. Okay, number is product. Quantity. Then I need price. Okay. Okay. This is not, I'm just creating some test fields for you. Let's say we have total. So I'm going to teach you about workflow today. So in Zoho Creator, we have seen what is form, what is report, what is page, right? So the next main component is workflow. This is for the developers. Workflow is nothing but where we will write our scripting. That is called workflow. Okay. If you go into workflow, there are a lot of options you are getting it in the top, right? One is form workflow, another is schedule, approval, payments. These are all things, right? Let me explain one by one. The first one is form workflows. Form workflows are nothing but, let's say you want to trigger some coding. Okay. So you want to write some code based on the user input. So let's say when user type quantity and price is 10, then the total should be calculated automatically. So here the total price is 50, right? So in this case, you have to use form workflow. Form workflows are based on the form actions. Okay, this is form action. Whenever you type something, this is called action. Okay, so here if you see, you want to calculate the total based on the price and quantity. For that, you have to use the form workflows. If you want to do any action in the form, that time you have to use forms workflows. Okay, in form workflow you can see lot of option here. I'll explain you what it these and everything. Okay, but I'll give you the overview of all the menus here. First is form workflow. As I explained earlier, if you want to do any action or trigger based on the form fields, then you have to use form workflows. The schedules are nothing but, you want to do some action in a scheduled interval. That time you have to use schedules. For example, mm, you have a employee. Let's pretend that you have an employee master data with you. You want to send a birthday wishes to your employees, whoever celebrating their birthday on that particular day. Okay, for that you can use schedules. You can create some schedule based on the birth date. So the system will check. Okay, who are all celebrating their birthday, you can trigger some email. In that case, you can write schedule. If you want to do any action, based on some date or in a particular day you want to trigger, that time you have to use schedules. Approvals, the name itself explained you. If you want to create some approvals, let's say let's say you want to give some discount to your customer. Okay, so when you give a discount about 10 percentage, then it should go for a approval. You can define criteria like that. Okay, so you can define all the approval criteria here. Payments, if you want to capture any payments in a form, that time you have to use this payment screen. Okay, then blueprints are nothing but, it's like flow chart thing. Okay, so you can say, you can tell the user, you can define the action. You have to submit the form, then it should go for approval, then it should trigger email. You can define the steps here. In each steps you can define your own action also. That is called blueprints. Batch workflows, the form workflow, batch workflows are mostly same. This batch workflow is nothing but this form workflow will run for every single record. okay, individually. If you want to run a workflow for particular batch, let's say for 1,000 records or 2,000 records, so batch workflows are triggered whenever you import the data into a form or something like that. If you want to run a workflow for large volume of data, you can use this batch workflow. The functions are nothing but you can define some you can create some function. Okay, this function can be called anywhere throughout the application. Let's say you want some uh, date function. If I give a date, how can I explain this? You know what is function, right? Functions, right? If you have any repeated coding, if you want any repeated function needs to be performed throughout the application. Let's say, for example, if you give any date field, you need to calculate what day is that. So today, if I give November 17, your function should return Monday. So you want this functionality throughout the application, means you can create that piece of code inside the function. Then you can call this function anywhere in the application. Okay, so we will go one by one. The first one is, today I would like to cover only the form workflow, because form workflow are important. This is where we have lot of options here. Okay, so if you click on create workflow, you can choose the form based on which form you want to create this workflow. Okay, according to Zoho, there are three actions. One is create, edit, and delete. Create is nothing but whenever you input the data into the form first time. Okay, let's say this is called, when you click on submit, right? This is whenever you input the data for first time. This is called create. Okay, the next is edit. Edit is nothing but whenever you edit the data from the report, it's already when you edit the record which is created already, okay, through this screen, this is called edit action. Then third one is delete. So you have delete, right? So this is delete option. So here create, edit, create or edit, delete. So you can define the action in any three of them. So if you want the same action in both create and edit, then you can choose create or edit. So now I'm going to teach you when the user create or edit this record. I mean, edit the price value, the total should be calculated automatically. That is our requirement, let's say. Okay. So we have to write the workflow action in both create or edit. Okay. Here, when to trigger this workflow, this is, you have to think on this. So let's say I want to trigger this workflow whenever there is a value in, whenever the user input the value in price. So what I have to do is, here user input of field. Okay, so user input of field, and which field? The price field. So you can define any, this is a user defined input field. You can define anything on user input of price. You can write anything in this. Okay. So creating. So what we need here, the total, right? The quantity and the multiplication of price. So what you have to do is add new action. If you go here, input dot, in the left hand side, you have to always define where you want to store, display the data. Input dot total is equal to input dot what, quantity in input dot price. So that's it. If you refresh this is called Deluge scripting. Okay, what I have written is, this is the field is going to store, this is the field we are going to store the total value. And total value, how are we going to calculate? It's a multiplication of quantity and price field. So if I say, let's say B, the quantity is 4 and the price is 15, When you know, release the cursor from the price field, the total will be calculated automatically. This is what called on user input of price. If you want the same calculation in quantity, you have to do the same workflow in quantity field. Guys, are you following me?
Yeah,
Okay.
following.
Okay. So you understand, right? So you, whatever you define here, this is very important. This is very important, where how you are defining this workflow. Let's say create or edit, and which workflow you want to run. If you want to run on any of the particular field, you have to choose user input of the field. Here, you want, we want the same workflow in quantity also, right? Because they can change the quantity. I'll show you what all the things will happen. If you write the quantity column, you will get an error. Let's write first. So I have written the same code in both quantity and price column. Sorry, yeah, price column, because we want the same thing happen, right? So let's say the quantity is 4 again. The price, see, you are getting the error because what you have written here is the quantity and price multiplication, right? But if you see here, the price is empty. So it says that we cannot multiply 4 with any empty values. So what you have to do is you make sure whenever you write any arithmetic thing, you check null values. Here we are checking null. So if it is empty, it you know the system will take the value as 0. If it is null, we are saying please take the value as 0. So if I refresh this, I've written only in quantity column, okay? So B4. See, now we are not getting any error. Initially, we were getting, can you see the total is calculated because the system, the price field is empty, right? The system take the value as 0 automatically. So 4 into 0, it says 0. If I mention 40 here, then it updated 160. Okay. So you have to use you have to use null values like this. If the quantity field is null, the system should take the value as 0. The same way, if price field is null, the system will take the value as 0. Okay, this is called on user input. Okay, so the same way we have multiple thing here. Field rules, I'll explain this field rules little later. Load of the form. Load of the form is nothing but whenever you refresh this form or open this form, right? If you want to perform some action on this loading screen, that is called on load. Nothing but, let's say I'll teach you, in the on load, this is on load, right? So if you see here, the create of on load, I want to say the quantity should be put that quantity is equal 10. Okay, let's say this. Okay, so whenever this form is loaded, see, can you see? So if you write some action, if you want to write some action on the form load, then you have to define the workflow load of the form. Okay, this whenever you do refresh or whenever you open the form, the load of the form action will be triggered. Okay, so the next thing is, the next workflow thing is created. I'll explain field rules. The next one is validation. Validation is nothing but, when you click on the button submit, that time the validation rules will be triggered. Okay. The same way in Zoho, there are one is on validation. If you see here on validation, then is successful. Come on, sorry. On validation, another is successful. Okay, the both will triggered when you click on the submit button, but the different is, okay, the validation code will be triggered before the data stored into the database. Okay, but the success will trigger only after data will be stored into the database. For example, let's say if you in validation, you can say if the name field is empty, you should not allow the user to submit the data. Okay, this is your requirement. Let's say this is your requirement. So you can write the code in on validation saying that if the name is empty, you can cancel that submit. Let's say I'll write that code. Okay, in on validation, you can write that if you can define all your form validation in validation script. If input, always you have to, if you want to define any form field, you have to use input in creator throughout the creator, not only creator and all over. If you want to define any form field, then you have to use input dot that form field name. Okay, input dot name is equal to empty, then you can say as alert, please, sorry, alert, please input, please give value in name. You can give anything. This is the customizable one. This is just alert. Then you have to write cancel submit, which means the system will not allow you to submit the data without name. Okay, any doubt?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so you know, right, what is validate, what is success. Success will run after you submit the data uh, into the database. The same way, if you see here, there is in the backend there is option of enabling and disabling this workflow also. If you don't want that workflow to be run, you just disabled. You don't need to delete and do anything. You just disabled it, then it will not work actually. It will not run in the backend. Sorry, it will not run in the front end actually. If you submit, see, now I can submit without name. Okay, so if you have to write all the validations on form submission. If you want to run anything based on this form field, then you have to write it in on user input of that form. If you want to run anything on this form load, then you have to write the code in on load. Okay, if you click on this, you have to learn all these things. What is created, what is edited, or created or edited, deleted is this, in create and edit, you will get the same action: field, rule, load, user input, validation, submission. If you delete, you will get two actions. You want to do any validation before deleting the data, and then the next one is after deleting, you want to do any run in the you want to trigger any action in the backend, you can do that. Okay, validation will run before deletion, success will run after deletion, after deletion of that record. Okay, so these four workflow, you know you have to know, this is the major part of creator. But before learning the code, you have to know where you have to write that code. Okay, the field rules we will do one by one, but you have to learn the remaining things. Field rules we will learn with the actual thing. Okay, this workflow. Now you understand the workflow, right? You know where, how to write workflow. At the top, there is a menu called workflow. Then you have to click on new workflow. All the forms which you have created under this application will be displayed in this drop down menu. You have to choose the appropriate form and write the workflow. Okay, you want to run the workflow and create, you have to select this create, but you want to run the workflow in both create or edited, you can use this. Or else you want to run a workflow A in create, workflow B in edit, means then you have to create two different workflows here. Okay, so if you see here, we have created products, and then let's say if I create one more form, customer. Just doing this. If you go into workflow, can you see the all the forms you have created will be displayed in the left hand side. You can do the search also. Now if you click on create, you can click the form and create workflow from here itself, or else you can choose this form and do the workflow also. So here itself, if you click on a workflow, it's asking you, right? It's a form event or a schedule, function, batch, approval, payment on a business process. It's a form event. Let's say customer, and the remaining is same. Okay. So you have to, what else you want to know about form workflow, right? You can choose the form from here and create workflow. Then that particular form will be selected automatically here. Okay. The product is also same. Then okay, in Deluge scripting, the first one is hide and show. Okay, the best example for hide and show is, let's say whenever you select some value, based on that value you have to display some fields, and you have to hide some fields. Oh, I have another call at 10:30. Okay, I'll do the hide and show uh, part tomorrow. Okay, so first you have to, today I just taught you about the farm workflow, right? Tomorrow I'll teach you what is field rules and remaining things. Okay,
Yeah, okay, ma'am.
tomorrow I'll join at 9:30. Okay,
9:30.
sorry, I'm saying in US time. The I just sent you the invite, right? I don't
Okay.
know what time
Okay.
it's in India. I think
It's
7, right?
it's on 8 o'clock.
Huh?
It's on 8 o'clock, I think.
8 o'clock. Okay, okay. I'll join at the